Hello and welcome to another Commerce Talk session from Avensia. As always, I'm your host, Jack Stratton from Insider Trends. And today, delighted to be joined by a developer at Avensia to give us a different perspective. And this is Colin Ingram. And Colin has been working specifically on the Nordic Nest project, which we've referenced a couple of times, which is a composable commerce project. So we're going to a really sort of fascinating perspective from Colin. Hi, Colin.
Hi, nice to be here.
So what we're going to do a couple of sessions, I think, Colin. The first one, I really wanted to get an idea of, what it's actually like coding specifically in composable commerce. So, what makes coding for composable commerce for specifically Avensia for Storefront Excite? What makes it so rewarding?
I think the thing that I really enjoy about composable commerce and the thing that drew me to Avensia specifically as well was that it's a very modern approach to kind of e-commerce. I mean, e-commerce has been around for a while, and it seems to have been going for quite a while with various other solutions. But recently, this sort of trend towards composables has enabled a lot more flexibility from making solutions, from creating solutions for the customers. So you can focus on problem solving, and you can select the right tools for the job, and you can get to know these tools and work with them quite closely, and also sort of use these to best meet the customer's needs. It's not a jack of all where you're forced into using some functionality that you don't want to use. The customer and you can decide this together, and you can come up with a solution that really is the best for them, and not having to make compromises. So I think that's a really valuable thing when you're working closely with a new customer, because you can build around their story and their growth and their needs.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what about I don't know, in terms of you and developing your skills and just kind of really enjoying sort of harnessing those developing skills. Like, what's the benefit in terms of working with composable in that way?
Well, the composable kind of architecture is a lot more up to date. It's a lot more modern. You're dealing with tools that are usually API first. They've been built for developers to use. They're really well thought out. Behind the scenes, they have really modern architectures. They scale very well. So you're working with really up-to-date technologies and tech stacks, and you can trust them and build them, and they're well thought out, and that means they're kind of fun to use, because you can focus less on how they're doing it, and worrying about that, and more what you're doing, so you can really build and solve problems with them, and you get a whole variety of them as well. And you can have different CMSs, different PIN systems. You get a lot of variety, potentially depending on what the customer's using or what they want to use, which adds a lot of variation, which is quite nice as well.
That's great. And is it something that's been mentioned to me a few times, has been how in composable there's a sense that the back end is kind of closer to the front end, almost like the work you're doing feels closer to the user experience. Maybe you feel like you're more directly influencing it, or certainly more quickly. That must be rewarding too, right? Talk to me about that.
You've got a lot of flexibility with composable commerce, how to integrate with it. A lot of them provide these really well-built APIs, really good interfaces for you to use. And that means you can much faster get on to actually creating things. In some cases, it can be mobile applications connecting to them, some mobile UIs. It can be IoC devices. It can be all sorts of different things. And it really frees you up to kind of to build a product like Excite on top of it as well, which allows you to kind of bring together a lot of things and orchestrate them. And also build things for the customer that you can get quite quick feedback on. The speed and time to market is increased. So it really lends itself well to sort of agile development in general, kind of thing, because you can do these fast iterations and give quick feedback cycles. There's not this monolithic kind of approach where you have to, everything has to be finished. You can iterate and get feedback really quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is that, like, with Nordic Nest in particular, has there been anything that stood out on that project that's been particularly rewarding and fun? It's a great, the output's been fantastic. So just anything like kind of that stands out as being particularly rewarding in that project.
Yeah, for me, I've worked a lot with the order management system, which is a sort of a back-end extension from commercetools that you're able to do. You're able to seamlessly integrate a custom application into their interface, which means that for Nordic Nest, they have a kind of, their customer services can use one place, one tool to kind of bring together all the information about the customer's order. Whereas maybe previously they've had to go to different systems and do different things, like different payment portals. Now it can all be sort of connected to commercetools and drive that. And then that makes their life a lot easier, and they can have a lot more input back into, you know, how that tool develops, and we get lots of direct feedback from them about things that they like, even small things as well, you know, like changing the UI to make it a little bit easier for them, all become possible. And that's quite rewarding, because you know that they're using the tool and they have a voice in it, and you can improve their day-to-day sort of operations. I think that's really important, and quite rewarding for a developer to be part of, and rewarding for me particularly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it feels like, I mean, yeah, just from my very limited sort of understanding and awareness of what developers do and how they sit within an organization, this feels quite different. It feels like a kind of, not necessarily innovation, but just a change in the way developers work, and they're that much closer to not just the end product, but the customer, the consumer. That's really cool, because I think there's probably a slightly dated idea of how the developer sits in an organization. This feels very different, the way you've described it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more open, and the relationship we've had with Nordic Nest has been really open. They have their own developers as well who can look into their own custom applications and tools, and use our tools in a different way. And I think that sort of fosters a really good collaboration and just open communication. And I think that leads to better outcomes for everyone in general.
Yeah, fantastic. Colin, it's been so interesting. Thanks very much for your time. That is all we have time for this particular Commerce Talk session. We're going to have another one with Colin again soon. So join us for that. Thanks very much, and goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.